You meet someone new, and within days, maybe even hours, they start occupying your mind. You check your phone more often, you replay tiny moments. A simple message changes your mood for the entire day. And a part of you already knows it's happening too fast, but you can't stop it. Because it's not just attraction. It feels deeper than that, almost like relief, like your brain found water after walking through an emotional desert for years. And the strange part is, you usually don't even get attached to who they really are. You get attached to what they make you feel for a moment. Seen, chosen, emotionally safe. But why does your brain do this so quickly? Why can one person suddenly become emotionally important before trust has even had time to form? The answer has less to do with love and more to do with emotional survival. Because fast attachment is...
There's a concept in neuroscience called reward prediction. Your brain releases dopamine not only when you receive something rewarding, but when you anticipate emotional reward, especially unpredictable reward. This is important because inconsistent attention often creates stronger attachment than stable attention, not weaker. It's the same mechanism behind gambling addiction. The uncertainty intensifies focus. So when someone is warm one day and distant the next, your brain starts chasing emotional resolution. You think about them more. You analyze more. You become emotionally invested faster because your nervous system is trying to solve the uncertainty, not because the connection is necessarily deep. This is why people sometimes become most attached to emotionally unavailable individuals. The inconsistency creates obsession. Your brain mistakes emotional intensity for emotional importance. And if you already fear abandonment, that cycle becomes even stronger. Because now attachment is mixed with anxiety. You don't just want connection, you want reassurance. But this pattern usually starts much earlier than relationships. It often begins in childhood emotional environments. Not always traumatic ones, sometimes just emotionally inconsistent ones. Maybe affection was unpredictable. Maybe love felt conditional. Maybe you learned that attention had to be earned through achievement, silence, humor, or emotional caretaking. So your brain adapted. And adaptation is important to understand here, because your attachment style is not your personality. It's your nervous system's strategy for staying emotionally connected. If a child feels uncertain about emotional security...
But this doesn't mean you're broken. Actually, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Humans are attachment-based creatures. Connection regulates the nervous system. Safe relationships lower cortisol, reduce stress responses, and increase emotional stability. Your brain treats closeness like survival, because for most of human history, it was survival. The problem is not that you want connection. The problem is that your nervous system sometimes mistakes emotional relief for emotional safety. Those are different things. Relief is immediate. Safety is consistent. Relief feels intense. Safety feels calm. And many people who attach quickly accidentally distrust calmness because their brain associates unpredictability with emotional significance. Healthy connection can even feel boring at first, not because it lacks depth, but because your nervous system isn't being overstimulated. That changes everything. Third, rebuild emotional fulfillment outside the relationship. This part is uncomfortable because when one person becomes your primary source of emotional regulation, attachment intensifies rapidly. Your brain starts treating them like emotional oxygen. But nervous systems stabilize through multiple forms of connection: friendship, routine, creativity, physical movement, purpose. The more emotionally empty your life feels outside the connection, the more powerful attachment becomes inside it. This is why loneliness accelerates emotional dependency. Not because you're desperate, because the brain prioritizes scarce emotional resources. And finally, learn to trust slow connection. This may be the hardest part, because fast attachment feels magical, immediate, certain, intense. But psychologically, real safety usually develops quietly, gradually, like a room warming over time instead of exploding into fire. Healthy attachment often feels less cinematic in the beginning because your nervous system isn't fighting for reassurance every 5 minutes. There's less panic, less obsession, less emotional whiplash. And strangely, that calmness can initially feel unfamiliar, even suspicious. But unfamiliar does not mean unsafe. Sometimes your nervous system simply hasn't learned peace yet. So maybe the real goal is not becoming less emotional. Maybe it's becoming more aware of